will to do something and make that choice. In that choice.
But do you understand what I'm saying right now?
I understand what you're saying. 2 points to counter to the things that you said.
Yeah.
Number one, you said that. In fact, I'll go in reverse order. The second thing that you said just now was that the ability to choose is not the same. Sorry, you said it is conceivable that one can have power without will, like the mobile phone, right? However, that's not what we're talking about when we talk about God. We're talking about all-powerful. We're talking about limitlessness, which means that there is all power, which includes the power of choice, the power of will, right? And back to the previous thing which you said, which was you made an objection about tautology, and you said, well, then we'll have superfluous words in the Bible. Well, that's also not true, because we have a dictum in Judaism called Torah Dibra B'Lashon Bnei Adam. The Torah speaks in the language of people. In order to people to understand what exactly we mean when we say God is limitless, we then need to give certain descriptions in order to understand what He is not.
Okay.
Right? We needed to understand that there is no plurality, and therefore it uses the word echad, one. We needed to understand that there is that there is nothing beyond His knowledge, and therefore we had to use phrases like Hashem Yodea Kol Machshavas Libo, or stuff like that. Hashem knows all the thoughts of the man's heart. Right? It's teaching us lessons.
I appreciate what you're saying, Josh. However, having said that, you have provided no defense for your position.
Yes, I have.
And no problem. You have tried to defend yourself. Let's let the people at home decide whether or not it's satisfying or whether they're convinced. That's no problem.
And of course, you're saying that because you have no effective way of defending against that.
The burden of proof is upon the one that's making the claim.
You're also making a claim.
My claim is that when you're definitionally saying that something is not ignorant, and that's what knowledge is, or it's all knowledge is that you're not ignorant, and something has no limits, and that's what power is. Something has the choice to do A over B, that's what choice is. You're effectively talking about three different state of affairs. Do we say that God can make a choice A over B? Yes or no? Okay. Do we say that God does not have ignorance?
Correct.
Okay. So God knows things, yes?
Correct.
Okay. Are we saying that God also is powerful in the sense that He has no limitations to His power from things which are possible?
Of course.
Okay. Now,
are those first two things powers?
No, what I'm saying is my sentence A, B, and C, did I say the same thing or did I say different things?
A and B were different things that are included within C.
No problem. Included within it doesn't mean it means, by the way, it's distinct from it. But if you're saying, fine, no problem. Sentence B and C you said were different. Was my sentence B and C?
Sorry, A and B. A was will, choice.
Okay.
B you said was knowledge. C you said was power.
Are they same or different?
A and B are separate things within C.
How we defined A and B, you said is separate to C, right?
Correct.
All right. So in other words, if I were to...
A and B are not separate to C. A and B are separate from each other,
Great.
but within C.
No problem. A and B are separate from each other. You heard it here first. No problem. You said it, yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So that means to say that when I describe God's power, I described it in different terms to the way that I described His choice. Correct?
No, you...
Will.
No, when you described His knowledge, you described it in different terms than His choice.
The will, no problem. Fine. So God's knowledge is different to God's will.
Yes.
Excellent. That's all I want you to say. You've just destroyed your own premise of divine...
No, I have not.
Yes, you have.
I have not. And the reason I have not is because I have said that those two things, which from a human understanding are separate things, because they are both examples of power. Okay. These are both descriptions of power.
No problem. But they're separate.
And God is, by essence,
they're separate
limitless.
articulations of how we describe the functionality of God, if you want to put it in that language. If there's two separate things, we are describing God using adjectives with different words. And these words have different meanings. You've just said yourself, B is different to C. So they are not tautological, which means that they're not describing the same thing. And if they're not tautological, you cannot say everything is this, God has one attribute, or there's no attributes of God, that no attributes of God exist. That's impossible. It's a contradiction. You have to understand it's a contradiction. You can't say God's power. You can't say God's knowledge is X. God's choice is Y, yet God's knowledge and God's power, choice are the same. That's a logical contradiction. Impossible. Impossible.
Aspect. If the Torah was worded in a way that there was no apparent tautology, would it be understandable by the people to whom God has given it? So we say the Torah says that God has knowledge, power, and
Yes,
so on.
yes.
And surely it seems to me that in order for Moses to convince the Jewish people that what they have is a coherent document that makes sense, it feels the need to explain features of God. It can't explain God's essence. It can't say what He is, but it can say that He's what He's not. Maybe.
But what you're describing is what is referred to in systematic theology as negative attributes. So, for example, if I were to use the example of pre-eternality or post-eternality, I say God is not X. He doesn't have a beginning. God does not have a beginning, therefore He's pre-eternal. God does not have an end, therefore He's post-eternal. All right, so that's a separate kettle of fish, if you like, a separate line of inquiry of describing God in positive terms. And when you're talking about God in choice, or the choice of God, or the knowledge of God, we're not describing God in negative terms. We're describing Him in positive terms. And so, from that perspective, it's actually disanalogous. But let me just get, let's get straight to the point, right? Already, we've talked about divine simplicity. You said already that the Mu'tazilis agree with this. It's a group of Islamists pretty much extinct now. No problem. You agree with the Mu'tazilis. But so far, you haven't. No problem.
Yeah.
Say you agree with the Mu'tazilis.
Yeah.
So far, no problem. Become Muslim. I'm not going to say become Mu'tazili. I'm not going to say that. But I mean...
Well, you're being disingenuous.
No. I don't believe in what you said.
Exactly.
I've just refuted it. Anyway, look, having said that, now the second part of this discussion, I think more pertinent here. Because you would agree with me, wouldn't you, Josh?
Yes.
That if God told us clearly in the Torah that this is how to describe me,
Yes.
that these ways in which I'm suggesting to you, for example, through these attributes, would be something you would accept. If Moses said to you, God is all knowledgeable, that's different to the fact that He's all powerful. Would you accept it if Moses came to you and said that?
If Moses came and said to me that he's
the knowledge of God,
knowledge is separate from power.
Not fully separate, but in the sense that they are two different adjectives. Yes.
That they are two different adjectives in language?
Yes.
Or they are distinct from each other.
These are two separate attributes. God has attributes, and He has an attribute of knowledge, and He has the attribute of power. Would you accept it?
Moses said it to me.
Yeah, would you accept it?
Not sure, maybe.
Okay, this is disbelief, what you just said there. Yeah. And you're a heretic. No, honestly, if Moses himself, it's disbelief of Judaism to say that. If Moses said to you X or Y, and you know he says Moses,
If
you believe
Moses
if Moses is speaking, there's difference between Moses speaking on his own behalf and Moses speaking as a...
No, he's saying it's from God. Let's say he's saying it's from God. I'm saying he's saying it's from God. What you would reject?
That's like saying, well, if Moses comes to you and says that Wednesday is Thursday, should you believe him? It's nonsense, because Moses would not say something.
No, but what you've said is the equivalent of Wednesday equals Thursday.
No, that's exactly what you've said.
No,
you're saying if Moses comes,
let people decide,
which is contradictory to what he said before. Well, then should we listen to him now?
Okay, see, this is the disbelieving way which the Quran actually attacks about Jewish clergy. Actually, to be honest with you. فَلِمَ تَقْتُلُونَ أَنْبِيَاءَ اللَّهِ. Why'd you kill the prophets of God? Why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? You still have the same remnants of the old clergy, Jewish clergy, who disbelieving notions. Anyway, now let's see how sincere you are. Honestly, the Quran says
they mean nothing to us.
It doesn't matter.
They mean nothing to us.
They will on the day of judgment. Let's see. No, honestly, they will. What Rabbi Joseph Albo? You know him?
Yeah, the Sefer Ikrim.
You know him?
Okay,
listen to what Rabbi Joseph Albo...
Are you going to read it in context or out of context? Because I've heard it.
Look, please.
Yeah?
Please.
Okay, fine.
Please.
Fine.
If you think that something I'm going to read is out of context, it's upon you to provide how I've decontextualized or otherwise distorted the notion.
With
let me finish.
With the pre-agreement before you read it, that I'm not a walking encyclopedia.
No problem.
And I do not have a smartphone.
Well,
after you've read it, are we able to go on Safaria and look at the context itself?
Absolutely, we can do it whatever you like.
Great.
On his phone, on my phone, on anybody's phone. So he said to us, ladies and gentlemen, before, that if you find me something in the Talmud that indicates to the fact that a prophet can come after Moses, and that he will be given the right to abrogate the law, that he will accept it. Now I'm going to read something to you from his authority. Joseph Albo wrote, accordingly, if his mission is proved in the same manner as was that of Moses, talking about the prophet, the new prophet that come after Moses, listen carefully. It is proper to listen to the second prophet, even if he desires to abolish the precepts of the first. Abolish. And it's mentioned in Safar, Harakrim, volume 3, chapter 19, verse number 6.
So
Please
now
respond.
Let's look in the context. Now, two things. Number one, we need to look at the context.
Yeah, we will, yeah.
Right?
And when we do, and if it turns out what I say is true, will you be willing now to accept the truth of Islam?
Sure, because I know the context. I know the context, and I know you've taken it out of context.
Okay.
I know you've taken it out of
See,
context.
look.
I've read this before. I've read this before. I know you've taken it out of context.
Okay.
Right? I know you have.
This video, it goes all around.
I know, mate.
And long live scientists and scientists.
Right. Number two, you're mistaken that
what's the
Sefer
thing
Hikrim
again?
is not
Sorry,
the
what's
Talmud.
the thing
But
again?
regardless, so look on Sefaria, Sefaria.
Yeah, that's it. .com, innit? Is it .com?
I don't know if it's .com, just Sefaria and come.
Oh, Safaria. That's right, yeah.
Right, it's got a plethora of Jewish texts on it.
Safari, why Safari?
That's the name. It's a. By the way, it's not working. Is this it?
Because you can't do all
Just type in Sefaria.
Yeah, okay.
Nah, it's .org. There you go.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, it's .org, yeah.
Yeah. It's got all the Jewish texts.
A Safaria comes from
From the word Sefer, which
Sefer means the scrolls,
book.
right? Yeah.
Sefer means a book. So if we click on
Scrolls book, same thing, brother, man. Don't be too don't be too harsh on me, huh? The scrolls.
I will be very harsh because you're taking Sefer Hikrim out of context, and I don't appreciate it.
Okay, well, let's take a look at it, brother.
So
because maybe it's you that wants to take it out of context.
Right. So it was it volume 3? Did you say?
Let me take a look.
Okay. Have a look.
Volume 3, yes. Chapter 19, verse 6.
Okay.
Of course.
Right. So volume 3 is -3. Chapter
19.
19.
Verse 6.
Yeah, I'm sure. Okay, number 6 would be paragraph 6. There's no verses, it's paragraphs, but that's fine. Okay, so let's read this. It's actually got English here. The manner in which one can have this latest
just read that,
having
yeah.
absolute verification of the general character of the second divine messenger. This proof cannot consist
No, sorry. You're not reading it properly.
Okay.
Just read
the
it.
manner in which one can have this later certainty is by having an absolute verification of the genuine character of the second divine messenger. This proof cannot consist in the performance of miracles, since we see many other persons who are not prophets performing miracles, either by creating an illusion or by magic, like the Egyptian magicians, or through some other art. Moreover, we find that those prophets who are not sent to announce a law also perform miracles, hence we cannot tell whether the miracle performed by the person in question shows that he has been sent to promulgate a law, or whether it merely indicates that he is a prophet. It is clear, therefore, that a miracle is no proof that the messenger is genuine, as was explained in the 18th chapter of the first book, but the proof must be derived from the law of Moses for the reason given in the 11th chapter of the first book. Accordingly, if his mission is proved in the same manner as was that of Moses, it is proven to listen to the second prophet, even if it decides to abolish the precepts of the first. This is the reason why the Israelites believed the word of Moses, even though some of his precepts were opposed to the Noachian law, as we said before, but which they knew by tradition as divine. But they were absolutely convinced that God desired to promulgate a law through Moses, else they would not have had the right to budge from their tradition, from the law which came down to them by an unbroken tradition from their ancestors, going back ultimately to Adam and Noah.
So how
his conviction was reached in two ways.
Yes.
They felt certain that the last prophet who was introducing changes was greater than the first, and they verified the genuineness of the last prophet's mission as firmly as that of the first. Both of these kinds of proof applied absolutely Moses' case.
Yes.
He was a greater prophet than those who lived before him. He
Yes.
performed wonderful miracles such as had never been performed before.
Yes.
The Bible makes it clear when it says, "And I appeared unto Abraham and to Isaac and unto Jacob as God Almighty, but my name, God, I made me not known to them." The meaning is that God revealed himself to Moses with his great name, by means of which he was able to perform miracles openly and publicly, changing the laws of nature, such as had never been done for the earlier prophets, who could only perform invisible miracles to deliver them death in time of famine and from the sword in time of war. The mission of Moses was verified because all Israel heard the voice speaking to Moses, as the Bible says, that the people may hear when I speak with thee. For I desire to promulgate a law through thee, and this will make them believe what thou sayest. For this reason Israel was obliged to believe his words, even though he were to abolish all that was said by the prophets before him, since his mission was verified, as he explained in the 18th chapter of the first book, and his prophetic grade was superior to all the rest, as explained in chapter 10 of this book.
John Moore.
Whether in the future there may come another prophet who will abolish the words of Moses, and whom we shall be obliged to believe, this can happen only, as we have said, in one of two ways. Either the new prophet will be proved to be greater than Moses, or his mission will be verified as that of Moses. Now the Bible says that there cannot be a prophet greater than Moses. If there be a prophet among you, I the Lord do make myself known unto him in a vision. My servant Moses is not so, he is trusted in all my house. With him do I speak mouth to mouth. It seems then that Moses' prophecy is superior to any other. And at the end of the Torah we read that there will never arise another prophet like Moses, whom God knew face to face. This is the degree which Moses asked for and was granted to him, as we read at the end of the Torah, and there hath not arisen a prophet since in Israel like unto Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face. Therefore, if any prophet or anyone professing to be a prophet should come and say that he has attained a higher grade than Moses, which is impossible, and should say that we should listen to him and abolish any of the commands of Moses, not as a temporary measure merely, we will refuse to listen to him, but will tell him that he must prove his superiority to Moses and all the prophets who came after him and his disciples by performing miracles greater and more wonderful than those performed by Moses and all the other prophets, by humiliating all those who dispute with him, as Moses did to Korah, by humiliating all those who dispute with him, as Moses did to Korah and his assembly, by triumphing over and overcoming all the wise men of his age and all his opponents, as Moses did to Pharaoh and to all the magicians and wise men of Egypt, by performing miracles in public and in the presence of all the people, as Moses did in the presence of Pharaoh and all Israel, and by maintaining the miracles a long time, as Moses caused to go before the people a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night, and caused the manna to come down for 40 years without ceasing, except on the Sabbath day when it did not come down, in order to show the sanctity of the Sabbath and the truth of his words, and by fulfilling and by fulfilling many other conditions of this kind, without which he cannot make good his claim. The reason the Israelites obeyed Jeremiah...
We don't need more. Now we're going to a different topic. Otherwise
it's
John
not.
Moore. All right, fine.
Yeah, it carries on.
Fine.
Right? The reason the Israelites obeyed Jeremiah and abolished counting the months from Nisan, as we have seen, is perhaps because they based their action upon the interpretation of a biblical verse, as we find in the Tosfos in the first chapter to Cheethi's Megillah, that the reason Ezra changed the written characters when he returned from the exile was because of his interpretation of a biblical verse. Okay, so he is going on a different topic.
Okay, good.
So what you see here is he would have to prove that he is greater than Moses. He would have to be able to show that his miracles are greater than that of Moses.
Okay.
Right? Moses was proven as a true prophet because everybody heard.
Okay.
The entire nation heard God speaking to Moses.
All right, Josh.
That did not happen with Muhammad.
Thank you very much.
There you go.
Thank you very much. Now, are you saying to me, because you've already retracted your position once, you're saying...
One part of the position, yes.
Yeah, no problem. But you're saying to me now, because what you were saying before was that it was inconceivable that a prophet can abrogate that which came before. Are you saying now that it's conceivable?
There is an exception to the rule.
Ha ha.
The exception to the rule is the exception. You can laugh all you like, but the exception of the rule does not apply to your false prophet. Because the exception to the rule is where we have the miracles which are
you see,
which are which are greater than the caliber of Moses.
Josh,
and
don't be rude.
And we have to hear.
Don't be rude.
And we have to hear.
Josh, don't be rude. Don't say false prophet. We're having a good discussion. Don't be rude.
Then Muhammad.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay. Fine.
Yeah.
Don't be rude.
Then we. Yeah. I've lost my chain of thought now. Right. The exception is right. It needs to be like Moses. And when Moses, we heard the words that God spoke to Moses.
All right, but Josh,
the entire people heard.
Josh, listen.
No one heard the words of God speaking to Muhammad.
Josh.
Yes.
In our previous encounters,
yes,
you said that a new prophet who introduces abrogation is disqualified from being a prophet by virtue of the fact that he's introduced abrogation. Now, what we've just read here from Joseph Albo is, in fact, not only is it conceivable in the future that whatever prophet that could conceivably show that is greater than Moses could do so, but that Moses himself abrogated the law from Noah and those who came before him. So you are wrong on two accounts. Now, you have to admit this before we go forward. You are wrong on two accounts. You're wrong when you said that it was impossible for a prophet that comes after Moses to introduce abrogation. You are wrong. According to Talmud, that's wrong.
It's not the Talmud, by the way, but carry on.
Okay, well, according to the person that you consider the Sefer of Ikrim, yeah? You are wrong on that. And now, would you accept that you're wrong on that?
Sure, I should have made
Okay,
it, I should have made
great.
it more clear with exceptions. You're
No
right.
problem. I admire your sincerity here, and I admire your intellectual humility here. So you are wrong there. You are wrong again when you indicated that that had never happened in the past, because we had a long discussion in this very corner where you were trying to establish beyond, and it was implausible deniability in my opinion, you were trying to establish that no abrogation ever